LED screens are used constantly in our modern lives. So today we're going to learn about what they are, how they work, and some other interesting facts that will help us understand this technology that we use on a day-to-day basis. So what is an LED? Well, an LED is a light emitting diode. It's short for light emitting diode. A light emitting diode is a semiconductor. These little pieces right here. Semiconductors are materials that are between conductors and insulators. We've all heard the term, something's a good conductor of electricity. You know, there's a reason why we're told as kids don't stick a fork inside an outlet because we're going to get shocked. It's because electrons can move freely through that metal and into our skin. So that's what a conductor is. It allows electrons to move freely. An insulator is the opposite. Rubber is a good insulator. Electrons can't move freely. They can't move freely through the insulators. A semiconductor is this material that exists between these two states. The reason why that's important is because when you're creating semiconductors to be more efficient, you do something called doping. Doping is adding an impurity to a semiconductor to manipulate how well it conducts electricity. So in order to talk about LEDs, TVs, we have to talk about something called LCDs, which is a liquid crystal display. Before I even talk about what a liquid crystal is, let's define some terms in regards to states of matter. So we've all had science class before, but I just want to review some things. So solids are materials where particles are densely packed together. They have a definite shape. Think of like a desk or a brick. They're solid. You can't pass anything through it. Liquids are materials where the particles move more free, like water or an oil. There's no structure, and so you can put your hand inside a liquid because there is no solid structure. It takes the shape of the container. Then you have gases. Gases are materials where particles move randomly in all directions. They take the shape of their container and they have no definite shape. So now that we've defined these terms, let's talk about liquid crystals. When I was looking this up, I had no idea what this was. So I'm going to try my best to explain this. Solids are materials where you have these densely packed atoms that are ordered and they don't move. Liquids are materials where the atoms aren't quite packed at all. They're not really uniform. They kind of move as they want to move, and they take the shape of their containers, like water. Liquid crystals are this material that's between a solid and a liquid. On the molecular level, the atoms are in some kind of order, but not really. So the whole general point is that when you pass electric current through them, you can kind of change the way these particles move, and that controls how much light passes through them, which on a zoomed out scale allows us to have more depth of color and definition when we look at a LED screen. If you've ever poked an LED screen, you might see some waves around your finger, almost like there's a liquid behind there. Well, because it's a liquid crystal that's involved. LED screens and most other screens are like an onion. There are multiple layers that all come together to create the screens that we use today. So here's a diagram. I'm not going to get into all the pieces, but the important pieces are the lights and the liquid crystals. Imagine the backlights to be LEDs in those different colors of red, green, and blue. Those LEDs shine through these liquid crystals, right, in those different color arrangements. And because of the way liquid crystals work, light can pass through them in certain ways and make these interesting colors. And there's a bunch of more panels in the TVs that when they smash together and come together as a television, you can see all the cool stuff you see on a screen. LEDs shine in these three colors, red, green, and blue, in the screens that we use. It's because every color in the spectrum is some combination of red, green, and blue. So if you arrange red, green, and blue LEDs, you can create pretty much any color. That's why we can get these vivid colors when we look at television screens. The color can also come from some of these liquid crystals. I'm going to explain that a little bit later, but it's mostly from these red, green, and blue LEDs. Really quickly, as I was looking this stuff up, I thought this is really interesting. A vast amount of molecules and materials come in crystal form. When you shine light on these crystals, light bounces off and creates these extremely radiant colors. So on the left here, we have vitamin C. These vitamin C crystals, you shine light and you see these beautiful oranges and blues and greens and yellows that come from the light bouncing off the crystals and us perceiving it as color. We have dopamine crystals right here that have this gorgeous blues and greens and purples, again because the light bounces off and creates these vivid colors. And some of the color from television screens comes from this, but specifically what's important is that these liquid crystals allow light to pass, and using electricity we can kind of control what happens and what we can see. Last thing I'll talk about is the picture quality. There's different things that affect the quality of a picture, which is why televisions have from decently inexpensive to extremely expensive price tags. For a good TV, you want some kind of dimming. This is because when you were watching a show, well, you want to make sure the dark places aren't too dark and the light spaces aren't too light. You want to be able to control the ability to dim these little lights so that you can get a more clear picture. Then you have edge-lit and full array LEDs. Edge-lit LEDs are the least expensive. They have lights on the edges and that shine towards the middle and give a pretty decent color and clarity. Then full array LEDs have LEDs all over the place that create more vivid and finer picture quality. So in summary, we talked about LEDs, these little semiconductor diodes that control light and how it shines. And in talking about liquid crystals, we just did a little general overview of the three states of matter and how a liquid crystal is between a solid and a liquid. And every TV is like an onion. There's different layers that come together to create the screens that we see, and light shining through those layers and the way it's controlled gives us a picture quality that we want. And with those LEDs, they come in these red, greens, and blues because any color in the spectrum can be created by some combination of red, green, and blue. And the quality of these televisions depends on how well they dim LEDs, where the lights are arranged, and where the LEDs shine. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Please like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends. I'll be back soon with another video.